Some of these grand, famous brands, if you think about them, dude, none of them are the cheapos. Like we don't go there because they're giving us the best deal. In fact, we might complain about the price. What we go
Right.
for is they're just like the best experience. Dang it, the price is worth it. And so if you're the cheapo in your category and you're winning them because you have the coupon of the month, you can't count those as raving fans. Raving fans come because you're worth it, not because you have a special offer. So they come back, they pay full price, and then they tell others about you.
Helping you create loyal customers and loyal employees, all through the power of simplicity. This is the Simple Brand Podcast, now heard around the world, including Rutland, Vermont. I'm your host, Matt Lyles, and this week, I'm talking with Scott Wozniak. Scott's the founder and CEO of Swoz Consulting, where they help startups, family enterprises, and Fortune 500 companies create raving fans of customers and employees. And Scott's the best-selling author of Make Your Brand Legendary. Create raving fans with the customer experience engine. When we hear the term legendary brands, there's usually a small number of recognizable brand names that pop up, like Apple, Harley-Davidson, Chick-fil-A. When we see or we hear these brand names, something in us lights up. Sure, we know their product and their service offerings, but a huge number of their customers have a much deeper, much more profound, and even an emotional connection to these brands. And really, they're not just brands, they're legendary brands. They don't just have satisfied customers, they've got raving fans. Fans who will remain loyal, who will buy every product, who will evangelize and continue to tell anyone who will listen how much they love the brand. But how do these types of companies even get such raving fans? I mean, really, we're talking about just a computer company, a motorcycle company, a chicken sandwich chain. Well, it's not by magic, and it's not by luck. And it's not by simply trying harder than the competition. It comes down to having the right sets of systems. Systems that go beyond simply delivering a great product to actually delivering a great customer experience and a great employee experience. It's these systems that help create and keep creating the raving fans. And here's what's cool. Any leader can build these systems in their brand. Even you. Scott and I talk about the right way to build your customer experience engine, along with all the components that go into the engine and how these components need to work together so that your customer experience effort is always running smoothly. So here it is. Here's my interview with Scott Wozniak. Hey, Scott. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt. Glad to be here, man.
I am glad to see you. I'm excited to talk about Make Your Brand Legendary. When we hear the term legendary brand, I think a lot of people have the same brands in mind for the most part. Like there's quite a few brands when we say, oh, here's a legendary brand. They're based on their product, their service, or based on their experience or whatever else. A lot of these brands come to mind, even including your former employer, Chick-fil-A, right?
They definitely have raving fans, man. It's real. It's real.
But when we think about legendary brands, and we really stop to think, it's like, yeah, like there's so many. But when we think about all of the brands out there in the world, and those that are legendary and those that are not legendary, the legendary ones are really few and far between. I'd like to know, what sets apart a legendary brand from a non-legendary brand?
Yes. Let me just first maybe cut through some of the noise and the hype. You're not legendary because you say you're legendary, which
Right.
if you go by that measure, Matt, there's a lot of legendary brands, right? Look at our marketing, right? We're amazing and we're epic and phenomenal and no one like us. No, the ultimate measure of a legendary brand is, do you have raving fans? It's not what you say. It's what your customers say about you that make you legendary. And so, if you really want to know if you're legendary, then you look at your customer behavior. I have been through too many motivational hype sessions where I got all excited and then I was like, how do I do that? And they're like, good luck. And they walked away. So what I really, my passion is, my life and career is kind of this last 15, almost 20 years now has been how, not get you hyped, but like, how do you actually tactically do that? So raving fans, oh, my customers love me. There are three measures, three behaviors you can track and measure and say, okay, do you have all three of these? How well? This is how you know if you have raving fans. And if you have these three, then you have a legendary brand. And if you don't, you don't, right? I mean, there's no opinion battle here, right? Like it becomes real pretty like it is or it isn't. So okay. You have customers who buy more often. Now that's broad. For each company we work with, and for you listening, you're going to have to translate this into specific numbers into your setting, right? Some people will have lots of little transactions, like a restaurant, right? Has a lot. You can come weekly, you can come daily to some restaurants, right? Like go get it. Let's say you're a wedding planner, though. You probably don't want annual return customers. That'd be a bad setup. Maybe, hey, they come back, but for them, it's like we're going to come back at our 10-year and our 20-year and do rededications, and that's lovely, right? Lovely. But still, so you're going to go for bigger packages and get fewer deals. But how much more often? Do you actually have return business? You can measure that. So buy more often, pay full price. If you are getting them there through like discounts and coupon deals and like you're the cheapo, they're not really coming because they love you. They're coming because they love your prices. When you think about the great brands you're thinking of, so Chick-fil-A, but I mean, let's think about some Disney World, right? Apple, Harley Davidson, right? I mean, some of these grand, famous brands, if you think about them, dude, none of them are the cheapos. Like we don't go there because they're giving us the best deal. In fact, we might complain about the price. What we go for is they're just like the best experience. Dang it, the price is worth it. And so if you're the cheapo in your category and you're winning them because you have the coupon of the month, you can't count those as raving fans. Raving fans come because you're worth it, not because you have a special offer. So they come back, they pay full price, and then they tell others about you. Again, you can track this on social. And that's probably the most powerful behavior of them all, right?
That's it.
You can track it on social media. You can ask your new customers, how'd you hear about us? But these are all trackable things that you can say, okay, if we have return customers who come back, there's churn, which is like they won't stay around versus like, no, they just keep coming. They're not coming because of a coupon. Like they're coming because it's like, dang it, it's worth it. They're full price. And then they tell others, okay, you have a raving fan. We actually have a tool we work with our clients on. You can measure, okay, what percentage of your customers are raving fans? And if you don't have at least 50.01%, right? Like a slight majority of them as raving fans, we can't say that you're a legendary brand. It's like, hey, everybody's got one or two people that like them a lot. But man, if you want to be a legendary brand, it's the core of your customers are raving fans. And man, can I tell you, that is massively different business to operate, run. The finances are different. The marketing's different. The people different. Everything that imply. But this is the first key measure is not what do you say? Hey, I think we're awesome. Good. Do your customers treat you like you're awesome? That's really where the first kind of challenge litmus test we'd throw out there is like, all right, well, show me your customers. Well, do you have raving fans or not? Now, maybe you've got all the potential for it. You just haven't convinced them or shown them. You might have a brilliant product, but that sadly does not always translate into great customers. You've got to do work to connect those dots. Because here's what doesn't work. I've done this, man. All these lessons, by the way, are like hard learned, screwed that up, figured it out, been in the trenches for 25 years now, figuring this out with companies working. This isn't a theory we just came up with. This is like reports from like battle scars, right?
And that's the best way to learn, though.
It is. So yes, the lesson I used to think when I was young in my 20s, like the old, if you build it, they will come, right? Man, I loved that movie. That was awesome, right? Like this is it. And that's the entrepreneur dream. Like you're going to get in a garage, right? You and me are two cool geniuses and we're going to come up with something that's brilliant. And then we release it to the world. And frankly, most of the time, nobody cares, man.
Doesn't everybody understand how great this is?
Yes. And that's the problem. It might actually be great, but there's work to do to turn that into a great experience for them. It is necessary, but not sufficient to have a quality product or service. Good step one, check the box.
That's the starting point.
Thank you.
A lot of people talk about how a lot of leaders say it's our quality that sets us apart. It's our quality that differentiates us. And sorry, but I mean, here in 2024, that's not the case anymore. Quality is step one. Those are the table stakes.
Yeah. Like that's the ante. I'm in the game now, but now you still have to play the game well. Legendary brands have raving fans, and all the rest is fluff and vanity metrics. Do you actually have customers that behave this way?
And I can see a number of leaders who think that they do it really well with those first two components. But I think a lot of people forget that third component of, do your customers refer other customers? Are your customers singing your praises? And are your customers doing your marketing for you?
Oh my gosh. And it's the best marketing in the world, man.
Yeah.
Nothing can compete with it. It's crazy.
So when it comes to creating raving fans, you've got what you refer to as your customer experience engine, right?
Yeah. How, right? After years of explaining it, we started writing this diagram out that just kind of said, oh, so we worked with lots of different companies, helped them build this and worked inside that. And we again notice there's a pattern, right? The way this guy does it is slightly different than this guy, but they're both trying to do the same thing. And so we started writing that pattern down, and eventually we turned it into a little engine diagram, because it feels sometimes like this is like it's magic, right? Or it's the mystical wonderland of like, I don't know, you get lucky and then something magical happens. No, there's a tactical process. You do this, you do this, you do this. And again, the metaphor of the engine is like, and it's just a normal output. Like you crank these levers, you push that button, and the normal output is a raving fan. It's a systematic process. So yes, that message says, okay, if you do the right tactics, you do get this result. It's not luck. There is a real system behind it. I'll quickly highlight the things. And by the way, there's lots of specifics and tactics. And I should even say this, like for people in the nonprofit space, most of our clients are businesses, but there's a version of this that we have for nonprofits. It just works. We change it from like customers to like constituents, right? The people you serve versus the people you sell to. But some of these are just fundamentals on how people build relationships with organizations. Okay, so the engine. There's fuel pouring into the engine, and then there's 3 gears at the heart of the engine. And then there's a belt wrapping around all the gears, keeping it all together. That's the big idea. The fuel pouring into the engine was what we call customer insight. I mean, the question we ask is, do you really know your customers?
Yeah.
And we find most people don't have customer insight. They have customer data, not customer insight, right? They know facts, what they buy, when they buy, where they are, right? They might know their zip code, but they don't know why. They don't know why they picked you. They don't know who else they consider. They don't know which of your features they love and which they don't care about. They just know that Scott Wozniak bought something. Good, but like why? And it's the insight, it's fuel that feeds all the other stuff we're going to talk about. And there's a lot of ways to get this, from customer surveys to going on site. With literally my last meeting right before this was with a client talking about how we've got to go on site to where the business happens. We got to get the executives out of their pretty ivory towers and down on the ground where it happened. There's live, just show up in person. There's customer surveys, there's interviews and focus groups. There's lots of ways to do it, that each company picks their own mix, but you have some steady process to say, do we understand what's going on and stay tuned into what's happening? And that fuel feeds all the decisions you make. I'm going to talk about the 3 gears in a second, but sometimes when people are like, I don't know, how do you know which one? And you just make a lucky guess. No. If you ever feel like you have to guess on what our customers want, and I don't know which product or feature or program, if you're guessing, that's just a sign you don't have enough customer insight. When you really know your customers, it actually saves you. A little work up there saves you a ton of time and money down the line, because now you're not like, most of us do. And I did the first part of my career. You throw a bunch of things on the wall and see what sticks, right? If you have customer insight, you're like, no, I know what Matt wants. I know Matt. And so I'm just going to give Matt what he wants. And then you're like, what do you know? He bought a lot of it. Yeah, we built it for you. It's pretty straightforward, right?
Well, I used to talk a lot about the value of testing and learning. Testing things and then learning. And that's all in good. However, if you have enough customer insight, if you truly know your customers, then the amount of things that you need to test becomes much smaller.
Yeah. You get targeted tests, really
Yeah.
specific things.
That's
Now,
it.
that's not to say that you never test and learn. The fuel,
Right.
think an engine, right? That's what you have to keep feeding fuel in your engine. It's not like I filled up my car once and 5 years later I'm good. I wish. When you figure that kind of fuel out, come talk to me. Even our new electric cars, right, need to keep recharging the fuel, so to speak. There's still this cycle and process, but we'll begin with, I know what Matt wants. So I'm going to build something for Matt, and then I'm going to test it with Matt, and he's going to, the tweaks are much smaller, and it's a very targeted, what you're talking about, the raw test versus the targeted test. I would say in the metaphor, do you know you can run an engine on raw oil, like diesel engines in particular? You could put crude oil in a diesel engine and it'll run. It'll turn over and function, but it's a mess. Like it's bad for the engine. You have to wait a ton of oil, right? Like you got to stop and clean it on the regular. Like there's a lot of wasted product, but it can be done. Or you can refine that crude oil into petroleum. You get high octane, all that energy goes straight into the output that you want. That's the difference between kind of the raw test of like, I don't know, just throw stuff and see what happens versus like, we're going to refine this a little bit, know who I'm serving, why, what they care about, what their life's about. And then I'm going to test that thing. Oh man. Yeah. So much less waste. You can function without customer insight. This is the one part of the engine that's semi-optional. But boy, you'll waste a lot of time and money and effort doing it.
And you may not be able to function for long doing that.
You're gonna eat a lot of your margins, both energy, personal energy, and money will go into this raw testing. And so get insight, and it makes everything else you do smarter, faster, better. Put a system, put tools together, and just on a regular basis, keep pumping insight into your company, saying, hey, what do our people actually care about, think about? Not what I think about us, like their broader life. Who are they and what do they care about in their life? And then where do we fit in that bigger picture? That's customer insight.
When it comes to sourcing that customer insight, there are different sources, there are different channels to do that. What do you think are some of the most ideal channels that non-legendary brands completely miss?
Yeah. I would say the first one I mentioned briefly is honestly, like you personally get on the field, get in location, go to where the customers are, see them use your stuff, see their world, get out of your office, get into their world. And maybe sometimes they come to your world, like you're a retail shop or you're some financial advisor, they're going to come to your office. Sometimes that's fine. But at least once a year, twice a year, get out of the space and make your whole team. This costs no money, just a little bit of time. And man, I can't tell you how many times we've done this with clients and gotten massive insights. Because here's what we learned. Customers are really good at telling you what frustrates them, and they're really bad at telling you how to fix it. They're terrible at coming up with solutions. You're the expert. They don't know your space. They don't know what's possible. The famous example of this is Henry Ford, who said, hey, if I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. They just couldn't conceive of a car 120 years ago, right? They're like, I mean, give me extra long horse legs or something. He's like, no, I can do this. I get what you want. I've got a better way to do this for you. So go listen for their frustrations. But if you just do the surveys, I like surveys. I'm not opposed to it. But if you only do like customer satisfaction surveys, then you will miss some of the creative nuances that you'll see in the field. They just can't. Get in the field. That is also because people tend to think of these high expensive technologies and consultants. And I mean, honestly, Matt, my team is a consulting team that will come help people do this. And we will tell them before you hire us at our complicated things, are you either just showing up and taking notes? That doesn't cost time, money in a consultant. In fact, I can't see as much as you would see because you know your space better than I do. Even you, the CEO, maybe especially you, the CEO, get out of your space, go into their space, and on some regular rhythm, just see your customers use your stuff.
That's it. Yeah. So I like to talk about how good brands listen to their customers. Great brands listen to their customers and observe their customers.
Come on. That's brilliant. I love that, man.
That's where you're going to be able to find Because sometimes what a customer says may not actually match what they actually do.
Oh, yeah. Either because on purpose, they don't want to tell you, they're a little embarrassed, or
Right.
because humans are just bad at self-awareness. We're like, no, I never do that. And then our family's like, you do that all the time, man. What are you talking about? Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you've got the fuel that goes into the engine. The customer insight is the fuel that goes in there. What are the gears?
All right. So there's 3 gears. The biggest, fattest gear, like bigger than the other 2 put together, is operational excellence, which is not where anybody expects me to go first, right? It's raving fans and brands. And like, we're going to talk about marketing.
Why is it not advertising?
Exactly.
Social media.
Dude, I learned this one the hard way as well. Here's my Scott Wozniak plan for ruining your brand permanently. I know this is why you had me on the podcast. It's going to be great, right? Here's what I'd want. I'd help you develop world-class advertising and marketing and bad operations. And with that combo, we'll convince everybody to come check you out and then realize you're bad at your job. And within about 2 years or less, they'll tell all their friends and your brand will be permanently ruined. Nobody will ever trust you. You don't want to get to the fancy advertising cool stuff until you have operational excellence. We say it's first in sequence and in priority. So here's the deal. When we think about excellence, maybe it's just me, but I want to think about like, how good can it be? My team's all together. I got proprietary content. We got cool tech, whatever it is. When it all works, how excellent is our stuff? And that's not what your customers are asking. What your customer's asking is, can I trust you? Can I trust you? And that is a different calculation than how good can you be sometimes. Trust is about consistency. And I have seen brand after brand wreck themselves by getting to like 85 to 90% consistently excellent. And that is still, here's the hard lesson we learned. Inconsistent excellence earns you the same trust as consistent failure. You don't get partial credit for partial excellence. Like, think about it. Like, it's a human trust thing. Like, that guy's he's a great employee. I mean, he steals from us once or twice a year, but the rest of the year, that guy's great. Like, no, you trust him or you don't. There's no half trust. And this is what happens with brands. We get going, we get busy, we get close enough, and then we want to go to the fancy stuff. Man, until they can trust you on the fundamentals, not the fancy stuff.
Right.
Did you show up on time? Did the product work? Did you deliver every piece you said? Was the team respectful? I mean, like, the basics, not the complicated stuff, probably not even the stuff that makes you different from your competitors, the fundamentals. And if you are the one we can trust, then everything else becomes possible. And if you're not, okay, I'm going to pick on McDonald's here for a minute, right? Like, fair warning. I actually, McDonald's is a very viable company. I've got my friends in the headquarters. I love you guys. They're great people.
They've done some good things.
Yes, I'm not opposed to McDonald's, but man, tragically, they're such an easy brand to pick on right now because they became the king of fast food for the consistency. And then they grew and they've got all these epic limited time offers and fancy stuff. And man, last I checked, they spend over $1.5 billion a year on advertising. Wow. And that's just domestic US. That's not global McDonald's, just US.
Right.
It's brilliant advertising. Like, even if you're not a McDonald's fan, like da-da-da-da-da, and you finish that in your head. Yeah, exactly. You did it. Like, everybody knows it. It's clever. It's creative. And tragically, I go all over the country. I'll do keynotes at conferences. I'm a speaker invited a lot. And I'll just like say, hey, does anybody have a McDonald's around you that you like? It's always consistent. Like, the staff's great and the food's hot and like, the place is
ice cream machine is working.
Somebody always talks about the broken ice cream machine. And that's what they're known for. And they have brilliant advertising, and it doesn't matter. We don't trust them because, dang it, the ice cream's down again, or somebody didn't clean that table in the kids area and it's sticky.
Yeah.
And listen, we've done studies on them. I remember, I was a Chick-fil-A leader. Like, so we looked a lot at, we're like, man, if they ever got consistent, they'd be a serious competitor. It's not that they don't have good products. It's that they don't consistently deliver the product. If they hit it every time, they'd be right there with us. It's not that it's not smart, clever, creative. The advertising's brilliant. They're like 85 to 80% consistent, and it's enough to make them famously broken, man.
But, when we hear that number, 85%, 90%, I mean, that sounds pretty good. Like, that's like that's a B plus. That's an A minus. Pretty good, right?
Yeah. Sadly, you can apply that logic to some of your marketing, right? If you have If you have 10 campaigns going, you don't need all 10 to hit.
Yeah.
But we're talking about our fundamentals. Man, 90% is enough to make you famously broken. I mean, it'll look your brand, and I've seen it time and again. Now, you don't have to be perfect. That's
Right.
too hard. Nobody can pull that off. Not
It's hard.
Chick-fil-A, not Disney World. Nobody's perfect. But there
Got
is a
Jesus.
threshold. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I'm working on that one, but I don't expect in my lifetime I'm going to hit that mark. And that's the good part, is that he didn't ask us to be perfect. He was perfect, so we didn't have to be, right?
That's right.
So that being said, like, but you do got to get, I would say, mid to high 90%. And really what it comes down to, we help companies come up with their actual number. It depends on how big of the mess up it is, right? So we have an unofficial continuum of like, how high excellence do you need to be? And on the one end might be like fast food. Like, come on, it's actually not that hard. If I mess up your sandwich, I can give you a new one, like right away. Like, oh, so sorry, sir, here's your sandwich.
Yeah.
On the other end of the spectrum might be like an airline, right? They're like, listen, we only crash 1 out of 1,000 flights. It's pretty good. Like, no, right? Even though we canceled the flight and you missed it. Like the consequence of them messing up is much bigger to my life than like you forgot the fork on my salad, right? So find out where you are. You're somewhere probably between airlines and fast food on the continuum. And that closer to airlines, you've got a really high bar. Airlines cannot afford mistakes. Fast food can get away with more mistakes if they're just generous and they're quick, they fix it. But it's at least mid 95%, 98%. I mean, you start getting a pretty high bar on at 3 to 5 things. And this is the first critical thing. And in some of you, for some of your company, some of your industries, just getting consistent on this will alone set you apart from the crowd and just be like, I mean, honestly, this is part of why people love Chick-fil-A, if I'm going to be
Of
blunt.
course.
Because most of the time, fast food sucks in terms of the basics, right? Like, what are you going to get? It's fast food, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, they were all nice to me and my shoes didn't stick to the floor and the food was hot. Whoa, this place is amazing. Listen, if you're a doctor's office, I don't know how this works for you, Matt, but like on time, right? We would not put up with that anywhere else. Like we schedule an appointment, we show up, 15 to 30 minutes later, the doctor actually gets around to me. If you were a doctor and you figured out how to actually be on time for your people, you would blow their mind.
You would win.
Thank you. Like it's in any, like this, because it's because everyone else is so bad. So get good at the basics. And then you've got these 2 little gears. And then here's what we say. If you're doing operational excellence well, 1 or 2 things once or twice a year in these categories, they're just little bitty gears. They make a huge difference. You don't have to spend a ton of time and money. And I see people throwing money in these categories. They don't have enough operational excellence. Nobody trusts them. McDonald's, billions of dollars in this fancy stuff, right? And it's still not working, man. Like you can't earn the trust over here. But if you do earn the trust, oh man, each small touches will have a big impact. Okay, so here's the 2 gears.
Okay.
Personalized service and memorable moments. Personalized service, memorable moments. So let's talk personalized service.
Right.
This is proactive, personalized connections. So if the first question they're asking is, can I trust you? Then they start asking, do you care about me?
Yeah.
Do you see me as a person? Do I as a company? Do I matter to you? Or is this just another generic transaction, right? Do you notice me? There's just like a deep human need to be seen and heard. And when you can say that, like, man, I like you and I actually care about you. You don't have to be their best friend. You don't have to like know everything. Once or twice a year, remember, just do little touches.
Don't make it creepy.
Yeah, exactly. Like it could be too much. Like slow down, man. And so we talk about 2 levers you can pull here: high touch and high tech. Depends on your company, depends on your situation. High touch things is like using elevated language. Ritz-Carlton talks about ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen, and saying pleasure and using their, Mr. Lyles, it's love to hang. Like this very elegant language. So you talk differently than folks in your space. But there's like handwritten notes and like personal gifts. And it's the old school high touch, white glove treatment. Just do little touches for your people. And high tech, not either or. And high tech is things like get a CRM. Now that's a pile of work and a pain, but get a CRM in place, and then it allows you to communicate like, hey, I know Scott Wozniak's birthday, and I send him a note on the birthday, and we have a little personalized follow-up. And it allows you to do these beautiful personal touches at scale without breaking the bank. So CRMs are great. Google News alerts for some of our clients, tracks the like what's going on in the news. And if your clients or companies in the news, this is business to business guys especially,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you, oh hey, saw what you guys did. Congrats on that new
Yeah.
award.
Congrats.
Yeah, it's super fun, super easy stuff. And then man, there's a whole suite of AI stuff. Like we literally have created an AI division in my consulting company now just to help people find and integrate AI tools because it's such a cool explosion happening right now.
Nice.
So some high touch, some high tech, pick one or two things. You don't have to do all that. Pick one or two things, do them once or twice a year, and just say, man, I see you. I notice you. Ways to let your people know, hey, these people actually remember me. It's not a sales pitch. Now, there should be other times you do sales calls. You
Right.
should. And once or twice a year, do just a, hey, it's just thinking of you. How's it going? How's that new product happening? Hey, congrats on your son graduating high school, or like, because you were listening in the last conversation. Little
Yeah.
touches to say that I see you. And that's it. Just enough to say, man, these people actually get me. I like these guys.
And if you tell your employees, if you tell your people, we care about our customers, then this puts that care into action. Like this
Yeah.
actually demonstrates care instead of just saying it.
Yes. Again, I'm that passionate about how, and this is key. The challenge is not care about your customers. The
Okay.
challenge is make your customers feel
Well,
cared for. And there's a
it's it.
world of difference. By the way, this was radical for me and my marriage and my kids. I'm a father as well. And so it's one thing to like, man, I care about them. Yeah. Do they feel cared for right now? What are you demonstrating that's like, yeah, I guess my behavior actually, that's a whole other conversation, man, which I get. I
That's
don't think
it.
that we have time for that, the marriage conference workshop, right? That's a different
Yeah.
podcast.
That'll be a whole nother episode.
This stuff all works, man. Can she trust me? Does she feel cared for by me? There is actually an interesting application here. So you do little things to make them feel cared for. And then now we get to the grand finale,
Yeah.
memorable moments. Okay. So if you've done everything up until this point, they love you, but they aren't telling anyone about you. Just because they love you doesn't mean they talk about you. We learned this studying, working with a lot of the great companies. There's a difference between loving fans and raving fans. Like, how do
Right.
you get the people who love you actually to talk about you? And so
Yeah.
here's, people don't tell facts. They don't even tell feelings. People tell stories. So if you want them to talk about you, you got to create a story that they can share. What we call a memorable moment, something that pops and is like, oh, let me tell you about this thing. And did you see that? And like, and word spreads. Word spreads through storytelling. So don't hope it happens. Create the opportunity for it to happen. Now, before I tell you how to do it, I'll tell you the lesson we learned the hard way, how not to do it. Like the
Of
mistake you
course.
wrecked the whole thing. It's all about who is the hero of the story. And in the early days,
Yep.
logically, I wanted the hero of the story to be me and my company, right?
Of course.
I want you to talk about me. So I'm going to make a story that like, I'm awesome. Like, check that guy. Okay, I'm going to use Star Wars to illustrate how this works. Like who I should and shouldn't be
Uh-huh.
in the, right? I'm a bit of a Star Wars nerd. So hopefully
Same.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. I got a Jedi robe and lightsaber in my closet, for the kids,
Of course.
Yeah. No, dude, I want to be a Jedi, right? So I keep wanting to be the story about I'm Luke Skywalker, right? I'm the guy, I'm the hero. The story's about how awesome I am. I'm going to save the galaxy. Well, I keep thinking they're going to be like, check that guy out. He's a Jedi. Everybody come see the
Yeah.
Jedi. It doesn't work. They might even believe you're a Jedi, right? They say you tell that story and it's great. And they're like, that guy's awesome. She's great. Yeah. They don't want to tell your story. They want to tell their story. So
Right.
your customer gets to be the hero. They're Luke, they're Rey, they're the Jedi. That's awesome. But I got to be in the story if I'm going to get some business value. So if I don't get to play Luke, who do I play? Well, we get to play the role of Yoda.
Yep.
We're the wise mentor. We're the guy that helps them realize, hey,
Yeah, you got him along.
yeah, like look, you got potential and you can do that. We celebrate our customers, and then we mention how glad we are that we got to be a part of the process of them being awesome. That story, they'll tell everybody they know and include you in it. And it gets a really cool process. So you create a memorable moment that celebrates something about your customer that you got to help them win in. And then you once or twice a year do something to celebrate. Now, customer insight. Think about this. Like, what would I do? This is where people are like, how do you do that? If I really know Matt and I really know what he cares about, then man, I know the things Matt wants to win at. Remember, that's part of the customer insight stuff.
Yeah.
Matt wants this for his life. This is who he's trying to become. This is what he cares about. Well, dude, let's give him a chance to celebrate that. And then we'll have a blast. I'll give you a Chick-fil-A example, right? Chick-fil-A around Valentine's Day, it's done in each market slightly differently. The franchise owners get to pick how they're going to do this.
Okay.
Most of them around Valentine's Day will have what they call a daddy-daughter date night.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Seen those.
Okay. So I got a daughters. We love this. We've had a blast. You pick a time slot, you show up, it's your time slot, and they have like how about half the restaurant's been converted into a sit-down restaurant, right? Like they've got black tablecloths down and they'll come to your table like, well, Mr. Wozniak, here's your table. And what would you like to order tonight? And my daughter's dream. They got to dress up all frou-frou and eat chicken nuggets, man. It's perfect, right? Like,
yeah,
get
best of all worlds.
It's great. So we'd have a blast, and they did dinner. They have these little cards for like questions for daughters to ask dads or dads to ask daughters. Like, what was your favorite toy when you were a kid? And like, it's adorable. Now, here's the key. On the way out, here's what they've trained their staff to say. Thanks for being the kind of dad that would bring your daughter to an event like this. The world needs more dads like you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, woo, I feel like a stinking Jedi, right? Like, it's not. Boy, isn't Chick-fil-A awesome? Aren't you glad we did this for you? It's like,
we're so glad that we created this special event for you. I mean, which some brands may feel comfortable saying, but wow.
Dude, aren't you a great dad because you took your daughter out to this event? I'm like, dang, I might be dad of the year, right? Like I took my kid to fast food. I'm winning, right?
And I'm coming back to Chick-fil-A tomorrow night too.
You want to know why people are raving fans? It's because in the back of their brain, the chicken tastes like that. I mean, it's good chicken, but like there's this crazy level of raving fans. They have mother, daughter, father, son. They do like, they go to children's hospitals and give out plushy toy cows to kids. Their jam is families, people who love parents, grandparents, folks who pour into kids. Like that's kind of their niche that they care about. And like they've got a few. They're so big, they've actually picked 3 kind of key niches, but that's one of them. And man, they make those people feel like they're great human beings who care for kids because they go to Chick-fil-A, and it's like, I'm awesome because I take my kids to Chick-fil-A. That, you see, it's not Chick-fil-A's awesome. See, the question your customer's asking is, how do I feel about myself when I'm with you? Not how do I feel about you? How do I feel about myself when I'm with you? And that is the key strategy. If you make them feel like they're awesome because they hang with you, they will tell the world about you. Now, again, if your operational excellence stinks, right? If you're not good, this doesn't matter. But if you've done all these things, by the time you get to this level, they love you. You make a little moment once or twice a year, dude, buzz will go. Your customers will bring you customers. Your biggest problem will be managing growth pains because you just can't stop growing.
All right. So a lot of times when it comes to the customer experience and the customer journey, I like to talk about at different interactions, how do you want the customer to feel? But I think you've really just kind of kicked open the door on that. It's not so much how you want them to feel, but it's how you want them to feel about themselves when they're with you. How do you want them to feel about themselves in that interaction? How do you want them to feel about themselves because they're associating with you?
That's it, man. Listen, Harley Davidson's a good example of this, right? Like they've got raving fan. Hey, pro tip, when they tattoo your logo on their body, they might be a raving fan, right? Like
pretty sure that's a fan.
Maybe something's happening there. And it's not because Harley's awesome. It's a way to prove to the world I'm awesome. Because I've got a hog and I do all this cool stuff, right? That's because I'm awesome. Not Harley's just my way of proving it to myself and the world. This is when you've got to the full raving fans level, and that's when you can say you have a raving fan. They're using you to prove to themselves and the world, hey, I associate with these guys, so like I must be pretty awesome. That's when you've gotten there. And if you're not there, then hey, you're doing okay, but you're not there yet. You've got some things to add to your engine.
Yeah, and at least now here are the steps to get there. Here's what's missing in there. All right,
Listen, it's not magic, right? Like
Right.
these are all pretty logical. You can build it. You don't have to be Apple and have, trillions of dollars and cutting edge technology. Gas stations can do this. Hospitals can do this. Construction. But I'm not saying metaphorically. I've worked with all these industries and more and seen it happen. Anyone can do this if they build the engine.
That's it. Yeah. All right. So you've got the fuel that goes in the engine, you've got the gears, but then you've got the band
Yeah.
that
So
goes
this,
around the
this,
gears
this
that keeps
belt,
everything moving.
it's not a separate gear. It's the thing that keeps everything else aligned, synchronized, and going. That's why it's a belt and not like a fourth gear. We
Yeah.
call it healthy leadership team. And the keyword's healthy. We see a lot of smart teams that aren't healthy. And you can have healthy individuals and not have a healthy team.
Right.
It's like a track team versus a football team. I happen to do both these sports growing up, right? In
Nice.
track, we had a team, kind of air quotes here, right? What it meant was we'd all run individual races and we'll add all the points together. If you win, you get points. If you lose, oh well, right? And whoever wins, whichever school wins the most points wins.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though, is you didn't go from region to district to state as a team. You went as an individual racer. In a track team, I didn't need you to win. I could win whether or not you did. Now you go to football or think soccer, basketball, any true team sport, and it's like, oh man, there's one score. Now I might track my individual performance, but there's one score,
Yeah.
and there's no such thing as like offense you won, defense you lost, right? Like everybody wins or loses.
Everybody.
And that's the key to this engine. The team wraps behind everything. We might play very different positions, but we all show up and make sure the whole engine, because what we learned is you have to run the whole play if you want raving fans. You yank any one of these gears out and the engine falls apart. It's an all or nothing play. Half engine, no raving fans. 3/4 engine, no raving fans. Full engine, the normal output is so the belt. And then we like a loop ideas because you're just continuously improvement. Just every year, tweak it, tweak it, tweak it, tweak it, and everybody shows up. And if you do that, you win. So the team's job is to come together and share resources and talk back and forth and say, how's the overall engine going? And maybe we need to put some extra time and effort into Scott's portion because we need to really shore that area up this year. And we're all collaborating on it versus like, hey, sucks to be you. I hit my numbers. That's not going to get you there. So the whole team buys in and continuously talks and improves this process. It's a belt behind all the gears that just keeps looping improvement. And that's the final piece of the engine, man.
And I don't know if this is the right analogy or not, but too many companies I see where you've got the different primary functional areas, and each functional area has their own little engine. It's like a series of engines, kind of like your track team.
Yeah,
I see too many companies treating their organization like a track team where it's simply a group of individuals and they have not someone has a cohesive leadership team.
Yeah, the goals are pointing in different directions.
Yeah.
My win is measured different than your win, and like we're in competition with each other sometimes. Even
So sometimes my win may come at your detriment.
Yep. I mean, the classic version of this is when the sales team sells a bunch of stuff that's custom that we've never made, and the operations team now is like working like crazy to try to fulfill a demand that they don't know how to do. And like sales is like, we hit our numbers. Too bad for you guys. Like it can get really frustrating.
Yeah. I really like the idea of the fact that it is one overall engine, one band, or one belt of all the leadership team like working together. Like it's not any individual area's goals.
Yeah, that's it, man.
And so all that together, you've got a well-run engine. But I like what you pointed out about the fact that it is constantly looping because you're looking at continuous improvement. Because I can think of brands that at one time were legendary. They had raving fans 5-10 years ago. Today, not so much.
McDonald's, right? I picked on them. Dude, there's a reason they're king of fast food in the US because they were the greatest at one time and were that way for more than like a couple years, decades. And then they slid and slid and slid. And they're kind of coasting on their volume right now. But they used to be. That's the tragedy of this. I poke at them, but dang it, they used to be one of the great brands that everybody loved. And I would say McDonald's global. I've been to some of I travel all over the world doing this stuff. There's some parts of the world where McDonald's, that local area, that country is just killing it. And I'm like, if this was in the US, they'd still be, they're a legend in that country. So it's
Wow.
very interesting. Yes.
I didn't realize.
Brands can drift away if they lose the discipline here. The engine kind of, shutters apart.
My focus is on simplicity. And one of the key behaviors that I talk about is that simple never stops.
Come on.
You got to keep going.
Yeah. Or Jim Collins says, so that big gear of operational excellence, we think that's the flywheel, right? Like it's
the flywheel.
Collins says in his book, Good to Great, which is one of my favorites of all time, never stop pushing on the flywheel. And we found this true. Work with the legendary brands. The great ones never outgrow a passion for the fundamentals. Like they just love it, like constantly geeking out and tweaking on like, how do we tighten this and sharpen that? And like, man, it is the biggest gear in the engine for a reason. It's most of the game. You win there, the other stuff's easy. If you lose there, I don't care how good you are in the other stuff. The fundamentals are most of the game.
All right. So I got a question that's somewhat related here. We talked about this earlier. We've talked about our respective faith background and lifestyle. So I'm curious, how does your faith play into your mindset? How does it play into your lessons on customer experience?
Dude, everywhere. So I mean, this is kind of how faith works for everybody, right? Whatever your worldview or belief is, it kind of trickles through. And at the core of my belief, so I happen to be a Christian. The core of my belief,
I am too.
I'm not actually the center of the story, right? It's not about me. In fact, the hero, the founder, Jesus, the heart of our faith, famously said, "Hey, I didn't come to be served, but to serve." And so he challenged all of us who's supposed to be.
That's my focus too. Yeah, serve.
Come on. Yes. And so, okay. So I often can talk to clients about this engine and say how great this engine is for making money and building customers that we talked about at the beginning, right? They buy more and pay full price. That's awesome. That's not what motivates me the most because of my worldview faith-wise. Here's the thing I love. This engine is also, I think, the best way I know to make the world a better place and to serve people. Think about it. Just different lens.
Okay.
We're going to show up with excellence and build trust in some fundamentals so they have something they can count on. We're going to make them feel cared for. Man, somebody sees them and cares about them. Somebody actually listens to them and like, man, I see you. I like you. And then once or twice a year, we're going to celebrate them and be like, you're doing something right. Somebody values you. You matter. You might actually be a Jedi at this. Am I doing that because I want to make more money off them? Or am I doing that because I want to serve them and make their lives better? Yes. So I used to think in my faith, like, I guess I don't know, the people who make a better world do so from a pulpit, right? They're preachers. And so my best friends are like, it's great. And here's what I've learned. Actually, my calling, my way of making the world a better place isn't from standing on a pulpit these days. It's from showing up and like taking care of my team. Which, by the way, that's a whole other conversation, but I would say you have to make raving employees. Yep. If you want to make raving fans, if you've got a team, that's
another engine.
Yes. So care for them. They care for your customers, right? But I'll put it this way, like Chick-fil-A, their current mission statement, get ready for this, is to be the most caring company in the world. Not the most profitable company in the world, the most caring company in the world. Because we think if we care for our people well, and I say I don't work for them anymore. I'm now a consultant to them, but I still feel like I'm part of the family, right? If they care for their people well, then, what do you know? One of the beautiful byproducts of that is their people love them back, show up, buy more, all that fun stuff. So this for me is like, show up with excellence, care, love on people, give them a chance to feel valued somewhere. That creates this deep relationship of care and service. And again, if you look at what Jesus did, he spent most of his time wandering around taking care of people's needs, listening, asking questions. He did give some famous sermons, but it's actually a very minor piece of his time and activity. Most of it was actually just caring and loving on people. And what do you know, that opens the doors for some really interesting conversations. And so that for me, this is how I kind of live out his example as, man, I try to do it with my own company. We try to help people do it. What do you know? I think the beautiful byproduct is we make enough money that we keep getting to grow and do more stuff. But the actual point for me is, man, this is how I make people's lives better, make the world a better place, and try to be a little more like Jesus. That's how my faith shows up here.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You alluded to thinking that it's the preachers that are in the pulpit giving a sermon is ministry. That's really one part of ministry.
Sure.
And ministry actually is going out there and loving people and serving people and helping them feel cared for.
That's it, man.
Very cool. All right. So I normally ask people about creating a 5-song playlist related to their work, but it sounds like you spend a lot more time reading throughout the year than listening to music. In fact,
we were chatting about this.
You read like what, 200 books a year?
Yeah, a little more than that on average.
That's awesome. Love it.
Some of that is I do travel and do it but I'll say probably 85% of that, 90 even, is audiobooks that I put on the headphones and I'm driving. The time when I used to listen to music, right? When most people are kind of jamming out, I'm like, oh, give me another book.
So based on that, what are 5 books or what are your top 5 books that you would recommend to people?
Man, okay. So outside of my own book, I guess I should say you should check my
of course.
book out. Make Your Brand Legendary. There we go. So 5 other books. Good to Great. We just talked about this guy, Jim Collins. Just about everything he's written is phenomenal, but Good to Great is the starting point I'd recommend. That one little bit on the flywheel is like one of a dozen company-changing insights. Powerful stuff. I love another book called The Experience Economy. That's by Jim Gilmore and Joseph Pine. We worked with those guys. There's some wonderful humans who also really brilliant insights. I'd recommend you get the expanded and updated edition because the original's good, but their update, like version 2, it's just one of the greats. So Experience Economy, the version 2 expanded updated edition. That one's been out a little while. The recent one that I loved was No Rules Rules. The Netflix founder wrote this.
Okay.
Super interesting. I have a very unique culture set. I mean, I'll just give you one nugget to shock. How do you actually, because they have a tactical system on how to pull this off. They have no vacation policy. You can take any amount of vacation you want as long as you're getting your work done. And how do you functionally do that with tens of thousands of employees and not wreck everything? They show you how. And then if you want to talk about the fundamentals and getting excellent, then I'm a big fan of the 4 disciplines of execution. Again, I've worked with some of these guys. These are all people that I've been inside, seeing how it works too. This is not just hype. But again, I'd get the second edition. Not the first one's not good, but again, they just added some really cool stuff from the field. And then the last one is by one of my favorite authors, Patrick Lencioni. He's written a ton that I could recommend, but kind of his magnum opus where he summarizes all of it is the book called The Advantage. And that kind of gets the best of all his books in one piece. Every one of those books has kind of blown my mind and been like, oh, I got to go back and rethink stuff.
Yeah, and I've read a couple of those, but now I'm anxious to check out the other 3 too. Wow. Yeah, and we'll put links to those in the show notes as well.
Dude.
And Scott, well, I've learned so much from you. I've learned so much from your book. I've learned so much just talking today, but where can people go to learn more?
Yeah, I think the simplest is just go to scottwozniak.com. It's got everything. I've got a newsletter you can sign up for free if you want. You can check out my company. We help people figure out their own engine and actually build pieces. And so my company links to there. There's also my book. All the fun stuff I'm doing tends to be somehow collected and aggregated in scottwozniak.com. And then you can link away to the other stuff from there. And by the way, that's SCOTTWOZNIAK.com. That's probably the option.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Great. Cool. Well, Scott, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Matt. This has been awesome.
I hope you enjoyed my discussion with Scott Wozniak. You can learn more from him at scottwozniak.com. From there, you can get access to resources and his book, Make Your Brand Legendary. And be sure and check out Scott's company, Swoz Consulting. Whether it's workshops, coaching, or consulting, Scott's team can help you build a well-run customer experience engine or employee experience engine to create raving fans and make your brand legendary. And if you're enjoying the Simple Brand podcast, go ahead and hit the subscribe button because it's going to make it so much simpler for you to get future episodes like the next one featuring Aidan McCullen. We'll be discussing lessons from his book, Undisruptible, a mindset of permanent reinvention for individuals, organizations, and life. If you want your brand and your team to not only learn how to innovate to keep up with change, but to also see change as an opportunity to really evolve, then this episode is for you. So go ahead and subscribe. You'll automatically get Aiden's episode as soon as it's live. Until then, keep it simple.